Perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I think we're just waiting for another participant or two. So thank you for your patience so far, and we'll get started in just a moment. I will ask, if you haven't done so already, if you could update your name on the Zoom call to reflect your name or the company you work for. That will help both the presenters and any moderators know who is with us today. Thank you. All right. Perfect. I think we are good to get started. Carolyn, if we can admit people as they come in, that would be great. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for today's webinar, Doing Business in Spain and the Netherlands, presented by the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture and Invest Nova Scotia. My name is Sasha Smith. I'm a Seafood Marketing Officer with the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, and I will be your host for today's session. We're really glad that you could join us. Today's event is designed for Nova Scotia seafood companies interested in learning more about market trends and logistics and opportunities in these key European markets. We're really excited to have a great lineup of experts joining us today with their valuable insights to share with Nova Scotia seafood exporters, and we thank you all for your time. Before we jump into the presentation, just a few quick housekeeping notes. This session will run until approximately 11 o'clock this morning. We'll have 2 question and answer periods, one about halfway through the webinar and one towards the end. To ask a question, we ask that you please raise your hand or type your question in the chat. If you raise your hand, please wait until it's your turn to introduce yourself and then ask your question. Knowing that we've got a number of people on the call, we are expecting some great questions. To keep things moving along, we ask that you keep your questions as brief as possible. If needed, we may interject to keep questions moving along. If that is the case, we'd be happy to connect you with the person your question is for after the webinar. If you're asking your question in the chat, please feel free to do that throughout the webinar. We'll be keeping an eye on questions and ask them when we can. And the session is also being recorded, so we will share a link to the recording afterwards, along with presentation materials that were used today. We'll take a quick look at our agenda. Carolyn, next slide, please. Perfect. So the agenda may have changed a little bit since some of you registered. We'll quickly go through. We will start with welcome remarks from Jason Hollett, Deputy Minister of the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. We'll then move on to some presentations from our trade commissioners on the call today, Julie Ferguson-Sanidi, Diederik Buettner, and Maximo Hurtado, followed by insights from Spanish seafood buyers and retailers from Scanfisk and La Serena, who have joined us today. We'll then move on to the presentation from Felipe Macias, Nova Scotia Seafood's EU in-market consultant, doing a presentation on market trends in both Spain and the Netherlands. We'll do a quick question and answer, then take a quick break. Then we'll hear from Michael Couch, Senior Manager of Cargo with the Halifax International Airport Authority, and then a presentation from Ben Forsyth, Export Development Executive for Seafood with Invest Nova Scotia, before moving into the final question and answer. To start things off, it is my pleasure to introduce Jason Hollett, Deputy Minister for the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, who will be offering welcome remarks. Deputy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sasha. And apologies for those who signed up to the webinar, hoping to hear from Minister Kent Smith. The minister is not feeling well today, so he asked me to step in. But we're really excited to have you all here today in our first webinar in the European Market Overview for Nova Scotia Seafood Series. Really excited to focus in on 2 really important markets for us, Spain and Netherlands. Netherlands are our 5th biggest export market, and Spain is our 9th. And it's really important that we work on these markets to grow these future opportunities and to increase Nova Scotia's seafood presence internationally. We all know that we've got a premium seafood product here in Nova Scotia. Includes lobsters, scallops, snow crab, Atlantic halibut, and more. As markets evolve and competition increases, diversification of our markets and products is essential, and we've definitely seen the need for that over the past few months. Spain and the Netherlands are two of Europe's most dynamic seafood markets. Today's session will provide insights into market access, consumer preferences, and demographic trends that can help you position your products more effectively in these regions. And this webinar marks an important step in advancing our global strategy. It's not only about finding new buyers, but also understanding and adapting to the market demands and building strong and lasting relationships. I really want to emphasize that you're not alone in this effort. The province is here to support you through market insights and information, intelligent export readiness programs, trade initiatives, and ongoing collaboration. We really encourage you to reach out, ask questions, and make use of this expertise available to you. We've got a great group of people here today that are lending their expertise, from our trade commissioners, Julie, Diedrich, Maximo, who are on the ground in these markets that can give you some real lived experience. Philippe, who has been working with us for about the last year in Spain and on the ground there as well. Mike from the Halifax International Airport Authority, and Ben Forsyth, of course, from Nova Scotia Business Inc. And then, of course, our team, Kim, Christine, Sasha, Haley, and Jarman, who are always available to help. And then a big thank you to Scanfisk and La Serena for also joining. Having them on the call as major importers into the Spanish market is extremely important and extremely valuable. So, just thanks for being a part of this webinar. Really appreciate your willingness to come and learn and hopefully be able to diversify into these new markets. I really look forward to learning about the progress that these partnerships will enable, and how we can help Nova Scotia seafood exports grow from these conversations. Thanks a lot, Sasha. Back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Deputy. We really appreciate your time this morning. Next, I'd like to introduce Julie Ferguson-Siniti, Trade Commissioner for the Mission to Canada to the EU, Brussels, and Belgium. Julie will provide an overview of the Trade Commissioner Service and the EU market. Welcome, Julie. The floor is yours.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Sasha, and hi, everybody. So as Sasha said, I am Julie Ferguson-Siniti. I am based at Canada's mission to the European Union in Brussels. So I don't technically cover the Belgian market, but I work on mainly market access, and then I work with our whole Trade Commissioner network across the European Union, and also the UK, Switzerland, Norway, on market development activities on food, as well as fish and seafood. But I come from the fish and seafood side of things. I worked exclusively on fish and seafood for a number of years. So I did want to just give everybody a quick introduction to the EU market and what that looks like. Diversification has really been one of those key words that we've been hearing a lot about over the last few months, certainly. And I think the EU is one of those markets that, although it's not always super easy, it's one of those markets that does offer, I think, really good potential for some of our great Canadian and especially Nova Scotia products. So the EU market overall is it's about a 26 billion euro market for seafood, and they do in volume import about 6 million tons. So it's really a substantial market. They're at about 40% self-sufficiency, maybe a little bit, a little bit less, 35% self-sufficiency, which means that they are having to import about 65% of their seafood products just to sort of keep up with demand. And I think that's really where we have a real opportunity. The main species are kind of consolidating a little bit since COVID. We're seeing a real consolidation on warm water shrimp, salmon, cod, and Alaska pollock. That is mainly used for in the processing side, fish sticks and that kind of thing. Canadian seafood comes in at 0% duty, which is great under CETA, provided that it is caught in Canadian waters, and if it's processed, that it's processed in Canada, and all those lots of good things. But we're only doing about $431 million into the EU. That was in 2004. It's less than 3% of the EU's total imports. So I think there's room to grow. Our main markets are the UK, France, the Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, and Denmark, which I think is great because those are the people that we're going to hear from over the next couple of days. Our trade commissioners in those markets, and I think it's important also to mention that we really have a pretty wide variation in the formats of the products that are consumed, and it depends a little bit on which market you're targeting. So the disposable income and the formats that consumers would consume fish and seafood are quite different and pretty varied across the member states, whether it's frozen, fresh, shelf stable, all that sort of thing. If you are new to the EU market, and I guess this is sort of the main message that I did want to talk about, Canada has a really large presence at the Seafood Expo Global Show, which is held now in Barcelona in April and May, or April/May, depending on when it's organized. There's a big pavilion there. Nova Scotia has a large pavilion, so please talk to your provincial reps if you are interested in that show. It will give you a good insight into what the Europeans are looking for, what the market's looking for. It gives you a chance to kind of be on the ground and as well go around and see some of the retail stores that would be of interest. We do have a number of exporting fish and seafood guides available on the AFC website. Happy to provide you with some links to those afterwards. So please do feel free to get in touch with us. And as well to any of my colleagues, if you're interested in the markets that you're going to hear about today or any of the other markets, do please reach out. We're always there to help. We do want to see more fish and seafood come into the European market. So we're absolutely there to help and to be there as a resource and provide some feedback. So Sasha, I'll turn it back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julie. We really appreciate it. Narrowing in on our EU focus, I'd now like to introduce Diederik Buitener, Trade Commissioner with the Embassy of Canada to the Netherlands. Diederik will share an overview of the Netherlands market with us. Diederik, it's all you.
Thanks, Sasha, and welcome everyone to this wonderful webinar. Really appreciate the chance to tell you a bit more about the Netherlands. Like Sasha said, I'm one of the team members of Julie, focused on agri-food, seafood, as a trade commissioner for a good 23 years. The Netherlands is often seen as an interesting trading hub, and we certainly see a significant growth in the last couple of months. And it looks like we will hit $1 billion by the end of this year of agri-food exports into the Netherlands, which is first time ever in my career. When you look at the Netherlands, it's quite an interesting country. We are currently talking about the Dutch paradox, where we don't have a government at the moment, and probably until summer next year, 2026, we won't have a government in the Netherlands. But meanwhile, the economy is doing okay with a good 1.5% growth, a lot lower than in Spain, when you talk later with Maximo. But still, economic growth and low unemployment, pretty tight labor market, and a budget deficits running around 3%, 2.9%, and 48% public debt, which is in Europe is quite quite surprising and very, very positive. So while the government is not really able to make any major and key decisions, economy seems to be going just fine. What I'd like to do with you today is not talk about the market, because Philippe later on will have a significant presentation about the Dutch market for seafood, key products that are sold in the Netherlands and some of the opportunities. So I'll leave that wonderful presentation to Philippe. But I'd like to talk a bit about logistics. And I have to admit that most of my clients in the last couple of years, most of the clients also in seafood, their requests had something to do with logistics, with warehousing, with trucking, using the Netherlands as a trading hub, a gateway into Europe, etc., etc. And there is a reason that people are fascinated by the Netherlands. It's of course the home of Rotterdam Seaport, which is the largest port in Europe, but also has Amsterdam Airport, third largest in Europe, and Amsterdam Seaport, which is about the same size as Montreal. So around those around the airport and seaports, there is a significant logistics sector that is serving the European market. And as a trade commissioner, I'm heavily involved in logistics solutions. Quite often, clients ask us to be matched with particular logistics service providers. So these could be custom brokers and logistics service companies, value-added logistics companies, trucking companies, and what have you. And as an embassy, of course, we have a strong network in this field, but we rely on HIDC, which is a local business council, and HIDC stands for Holland International Distribution Council. They will, at no cost to you, they will set up matchmaking programs for 2 or 3 to 4 companies that can handle your logistics challenges. And they do that really well. I worked with them for about 20 years now and have only heard positive stories. So highly recommend working with them. With a strong logistics sector, the Dutch government also decided to offer a number of trade enabling tools to Canadian, Asian, American exporters. And what you typically hear about here in the Netherlands is things such as VAT deferment, which makes it very easy to release the working capital that is stuck in your shipments going into Europe. It's one of the few member states that offers VAT deferment in such a rapid and almost immediate way of returning VAT paid, which is quite lovely. But also, it's good to know that Dutch authorities are accessible. You can discuss, for example, HS codes with them, and get prior to shipping, you can get advice on how to do it properly. I think my main message to you today is look at the Netherlands, of course, because of seafood market opportunities, but also the Netherlands as a gateway to Europe. I'll leave it with this, and we'll move on with the next speaker. And like I said, Philippe, later on in this session, we'll talk about the seafood market of the Netherlands and opportunities that exist. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dieter. We really appreciate your insights on the Netherlands. Moving our focus over to Spain, I would now like to introduce Maximo Hurtado, Trade Commissioner for the Embassy of Canada to Spain. Maximo will be providing an overview of the Spanish market and Trade Commissioner service. And after his presentation, he will also be introducing some special guests joining us today. Elisa Velez, a sales specialist with Scanfisk Seafood, and both Daniel Diaz and Daniel Durante with La Serena. They will share their insights and experiences with Nova Scotia Seafood as Spanish buyers and retailers, and we look forward to their thoughts. But for now, Maximo, the floor is all yours.
So thank you, Sasha, Deputy, provincial colleagues. Special thanks to the importer and the retailer that have joined us today. Thank you, Felipe and colleagues. And I just the purpose of this presentation is not really to provide you an overview of Spain because Felipe is going to do a great job. But it's to explain why should you be selecting Spain? What can the Trade Commission Service do for you? Also opportunities in the market. I'm afraid that I cannot see my presentation, Sasha. There you go. So next, please. So how can we help Canadian companies in the market? Here you can see that we can provide market insight. Notice that we connect with key contacts. So, if we're going to send you lists of importers, we're not going to send info at the company. We're going to be calling those companies. We're going to make sure that those are qualified contacts. We're in the ground, so we're there to find out opportunities for you. We're in contact with retailers, we're in contact with importers. They let us know what they need. It's good that we have an offer for the market, but it's really good to get also the demand information and opportunities. And very important for us is that we provide assistance when it comes to solving problems. Please think of any of the trade commissioners as your first point of contact whenever you have issues in the market, because again, we can help where I like to say that we can help where AI and Google can't. In the sense that you can find plenty of information using AI, you can use Google to find contacts, but at the end of the day, what you need is the right person to go to and try to solve the problem. And normally time, I'm pretty sure that you can solve the problem, many problems with time, but having someone in the field can really save you time. And when it comes to storage costs, I think that saving time means lowering any costs that you may have. Next, please. And just to add that we also have contacts with the CFIA. So if we have any problems, we have direct line with the CFIA in Brussels and also in Ottawa. Why Spain? Felipe is going to provide plenty of information in his presentation. Just some figures because it's the second largest market in the EU, because it's the main fish and seafood importer in the European Union. And because thanks to CETA, exports from Canada have grown by 50%. And that shows that there was a lot of potential, and some companies are taking advantage of the Spanish market. Just a few things that are not in this presentation. Is the largest growth forecasted for advanced economy. I think that the Spanish economy is going to grow by 2.9% this year, even higher than the European Union. There's 49 million Spaniards, but there's 93.8 million tourists visiting the country. And as I normally say, all these tourists eat. And that's very important for Canadian exporters. And we have CETA that has eliminated all the tariffs. Next, please. So where do I see the opportunities in the market? You've heard the word diversification. Basically, you don't want to put all the eggs on the same basket. You better make sure that you are trying to diversify your exports to other markets. There's some products that I have identified, and please note that they're not the same species that are exported to the European Union. And you're going to find something, hopefully, that will catch your attention, and that is that Canada exports many of those species, and in particular Nova Scotia. The way I work is that I have a strategic partnerships with retailers and importers. I want to understand the needs of the Spanish market. I want to understand what the consumer wants. I want to understand what the retailer is going to be offering on their shelves. They can provide us information about how to adopt your product, packaging, and all these information that are key to succeed in the market. And something that I find in terms of opportunity, rather than think about lobster as a commodity, they are more and more interested in value-added products. We also have ongoing campaigns with them. We have, from time to time, promo activities, and we participate at trade shows like Seafood Expo Global and Consumer. The brand where we're in the market is Sabores de Canadá. Next, please. Where we have a lot of information, and something that we've done for the Spanish market is because there's all these guides for Canadian exporters, but there was nothing for the Spanish importer, is that we have posted information for Spanish importers on how to bring more Canadian products, and also working on how to bring samples and try to minimize the problems with Spanish customs. And I can provide you information, but I think that it will be more interesting to have an importer and retailer talking about it. So next. You'll get probably my presentation with all the contact details. You can contact me anytime. Maybe don't think about this presentation as the only way of contacting me. Just email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And now I will let Elisa talk about and give the perspective of the importer.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello,
sorry.
welcome, Elisa.
Thank you. Sorry, I was having some issues. Well, my name is Elisa Perez, and I work at as a sales specialist.
I think she's frozen, so maybe until we get back, Elisa, because I know that she was having technical issues. Maybe we can move to La Sirena. Daniel?
Thank you, Maximo. Okay, thank you for inviting us to this webinar. I am Daniel Lorente, the Seafood Purchase Director of La Sirena, and Daniel Diaz is the seafood buyer here with me. And we are the managers of the main part of the business of the company. La Sirena is a frozen food specialist retailer in Spain, is the biggest one. We have more than the 50% of the market share. And now we are holding 275 stores, roughly, mainly in Catalonia area and also Madrid. And our business is based mainly in frozen products, but more than 50% of the revenue is made for seafood products. And now, Daniel, we say more about the products that we are importing from Canada. But I think we started a collaboration with Maximo I think 2 years ago, more or less. And I must say that we have a great success, not only a smooth collaboration with him and also with the importers like Scamfish, but we see the category, especially on lobster, the shellfish category, growing in double digit. Last year we grew more than 30% in volume, and doing promotional activities and doing some collaboration with some provinces. And we are still going on, and it's still growing, so we expect more success in the future. We can give you more data about the products we are working on. Yes, Daniel, you can say.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel Diaz. I'm the seafood buyer. Well, first of all, I would like to apologize because of the light condition we have here. We have a fantastic sun today, so you cannot see our face very clear. So sorry for that. But well, let's move on. Well, I'm the seafood buyer. As Daniel told you before, the seafood represent more than the 50% of our company, so that means that this is very important for us. I would like to add that the 50% of the total sales we have during the year are focused on the Christmas campaign. So as you can imagine, we are now very, very busy with trying to apply the strategy we planned and all the previous month, because we play a lot in this Christmas campaign. Well, from Canada, we are importing, well, we are selling different products. Lobster is the main one, as you can imagine. As Maximo told you before, now it's a commodity. To give you an idea, last year, we used to sell around 40 tons per year, and last year we increased that quantity until 60 tons. That means we sold 20 tons more in the Christmas campaign. That was because we improved our relationship with the origin, making a good collaboration with Maximo and also with our main lobster supplier, which is Scamfish. And we could offer a very good product and also a very good promotion for our customers, and that make a big part of the success. The other products we are now selling from Canada are the scallops and also the snow crab. I have to say that we only sell that products in the Christmas campaign. The lobster we sell during the whole year. And now this year we launched two new products, which are two tails of lobster in a skin pack, and also we plan to launch some lobster clubs already cooked and pre-cut, which is a very new product in the Spanish market. I think we are gonna be the only retailer who is selling this product this year, so we are happy for that. Well, we are always looking for new products to offer to our customers. Well, for that reason, we need a good collaboration, a closer collaboration with the origin. This year we are working very close with Nova Scotia, and we plan some marketing actions to approach the origin to our customers, because for our customers the origins matter. They are worried for the origin. If the best lobster is from Canada, they want the lobster from Canada. So and they want to know how the product is caught, how the product is processed. Well, we are also trying to improve our communication, not only our promotion. And I think
from the side is that I think the market demands quality seafood products, and it's always binding to the origin. So we give this product to the market thanks to our partners like Scamfish. So you, Lisa, want to start with your part? I think we are done.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
So can you hear me now? It's fine?
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you for waiting for me. What I was trying to explain is that we are importing from different countries. One of the most important for us is Canada. And from Canada, we import live lobsters, frozen lobsters, and as Daniel were saying, different products from lobsters, lobster meat, lobster tails, shell on, shell off, etc. We also do hake, and we also do some kind of red fish when the size is convenient for us. I was hearing all the presentation, and I have to admit that it is true that authorities, Canadian authorities, really help us. I assume they help also suppliers, but for us it is very important to count on them. They are our eyes there, and they can talk and explain to everyone what we need. We normally get in contact to them to find new suppliers or to get in contact regarding new certification regulations or customs issues. So this is very, very helpful. And as we are importing from different countries, I can say that trade commissioners here in Spain are the most helpful from the world where we are working. So thank you, everyone. Just to explain what we do normally is we find different products, and some of them are very interesting for us or for our customers, but we have to find we have to find the correct supplier, because some of the suppliers have a good or very good product, but we need to find exactly what our market demand. That means adapting sometimes packaging, of course, labels, and sometimes we even have to cover a new test because of different legislations or rules. So this is very important when you are trying to access a new market. I would say not only Spain, but in general, Europe. We don't have the same rules. So we have to accept that, and that it's not that we just want to have something different. Also, we also need from suppliers to accept our opinions. And that's been an opinion just because, I was just thinking on a problem we normally face is the size of the packaging. The sizes Canadian or American suppliers are used to are not the ones we are needing here. So sometimes these are the kind of challenges we mainly deal with. And of course, as Dietrich Biotener was saying, also logistics is a hard point for Spain. This year was quite difficult also to get containers on time. And sometimes it's not only the container, it's just when it's arriving, logistics. And we can't forget that the supplier and us as importer, we aim to deliver on time and exactly what the customer wants. So as La Sirena was saying, if they are waiting for a product to be delivered on Christmas, it's nonsense to have it on December. So sometimes we are pushing, and sometimes it's not the supplier, it's not us, it's logistics, it's customs, it's a new regulation, or it's whatever it is. But we have to have all this into consideration. And that's why we normally, as importer, try to have trustful meetings or relationship with suppliers, because when everything is fine, everyone is happy. But when there is any issue, smaller or bigger, that's not the point. We have to face it and we have to deliver to the customer. I mean, we can inform them and everyone can understand, but the final customer is not going to buy for January what is going to be eaten in Christmas time, for instance. So as I think this is quite a small talk. If you need anything, you can just reach me. Maximo has my contact details, and I will be more than happy to help anybody if I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisa and Daniel, thank you for joining us today. I know it's a very busy time, and for sharing your insights, which I know are really valuable. And as Elisa said, we're happy to make any connections with them. Feel free to let us know. All right. And a special thank you as well to Julie and Dietrich and Maximo for joining us today and sharing their insights on their respective markets, as well as how the Trade Commissioner Service can be of assistance to Nova Scotia seafood exporters. You've all been a really big support to us, and we really, really appreciate your help. Next up, we will hear from Philippe Macias. He is Nova Scotia Seafood's in-market consultant for the EU, and will be presenting on key seafood market trends in Spain and the Netherlands, including consumer preferences and emerging opportunities for Nova Scotia suppliers. Some of you may have met Felipe before if you were at Seafood Expo Global in Barcelona, or maybe on your own trade travels, but he's been a wealth of knowledge for us, and we're excited to have him join us this morning to share that knowledge with you. Felipe, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Deputy Trade Commissioners, Nova Scotia Seafood and Invest Nova Scotia teams. So good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. With this presentation, I would like to add some more useful and practical information about the European Union and, above all, more specifically about the markets of Spain and the Netherlands. So I will try not to repeat some of the so valuable insights that have already been shared here today. So before exploring the Spanish and Dutch markets, I will begin with a brief overview of the European market to provide context on its size, structure, and key opportunities for sustainable, high-quality seafood. And let's begin with a quick overview of the European Union seafood landscape. The EU is one of the largest seafood markets in the world, with more than 8 million tons of seafood consumed every year. Over 60% of this demand is met through imports, creating a high relevant opportunity for exporters like Nova Scotia. Despite Canada representing less than 2% of EU imports, or our seafood, especially premium lobster and whitefish, is well regarded for its quality, traceability, and sustainability. And these are exactly the values that EU consumers are willing to pay for. Thanks to CETA, next please. Thanks to CETA, Canadian seafood enjoys tariff-free access to the EU, giving us a unique advantage over many global competitors. The EU's seafood imports are concentrated. The top 5 importing countries make up over 50% of the entire market, and this allows us to focus our efforts on well-defined target markets. Products from Nova Scotia, such as lobster, crab, flatfish, and pelagic species, align well with EU consumer demand. The EU market is complex, but it's also open and interconnected. Importers, distributors, processors, and retailers often operate across multiple countries. So, how big is the EU seafood sector? The EU seafood sector is massive. It serves a population of 450 million people. In terms of volume, we see over 3 million tons of seafood landed in the EU, and however, only 38% of that demand is met by EU self-sufficiency. And this creates significant room for imports. The scale of exports and internal consumption underlines why the EU is a strategic destination for Canadian seafood exporters. Here, next please, we see how EU consumers engage with seafood. Per capita seafood consumption reaches 21 kilos, with 138 euros spent out of home on average. Aquaculture also plays a role, with over 1 million tons produced annually. This slide next highlights the total consumption of fish and shellfish in the EU, about 8 million tons annually. This number includes domestic landings and aquaculture production, plus imports and the Dutch exports. It confirms, once again, the EU's strong dependency on external supply to meet demand. The next slide, we can see the evolution of total seafood imports into the European Union over the last 5 years. After peaking in 2021, imports declined slightly due to logistics disruptions and inflation across Europe, but volumes have remained stable since 2023 and now are showing signs of recovery. This confirms that overall seafood demand in the EU remains strong, particularly for high value and sustainable products, where Nova Scotia supplies are well positioned. So how about Canada and the European Union? Spain stands out as the leading destination, accounting for 15% of total Canadian exports to the EU, followed by France, Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands, each representing around 10–11%. The Netherlands' importance, as we will see later, goes beyond its share, seeing it is a re-export hub, redistributing and seafood to other European countries. Together, these 5 markets represent more than half of Canada's seafood exports to Europe, confirming where efforts and partnerships can be most effective. Then the next slide shows the top suppliers to the EU by value. Norway dominates, followed by the UK, China, Iceland, and Morocco. Canada ranks 17th with a 1.3% market share, modest in size, but strong in reputation for quality, traceability, and sustainable sourcing. Next, please. Here, we can see Canada's seafood export performance for the EU over the past 5 years. The curve has now stabilized. 2024 figures show a moderate recovery, indicating that demand remains solid, particularly for high-value species like lobster, snow crab, and scallops. This is an important reminder that consistency in supply certification and clear labeling remain key factors for maintaining market share in Europe. Next slide. Where do the Canadian export to Euro go to? 72% of Canadian seafood exports go to the EU to just 5 countries. Each has a distinct role: processing, consumption, or re-export, and represents the main focus areas for Nova Scotia exporters. Exporters should focus their market intelligence and outreach on these key countries, particularly where Nova Scotia products are already known or have strong potential to maximize efficiency and commercial return. And finally, this slide highlights which Nova Scotia species in the EU imports most. Lobster dominates, as you can see, followed by cold water shrimp, halibut, hake, and sea scallops. It confirms strong demand for high-quality cold water species and opportunities to grow beyond lobster with scallops, halibut, and redfish. Okay, now let's take a look at the Spanish market. Next, please. Why Spain? Spain is the largest seafood market in the European Union and leads Europe in per capita seafood consumption. It is the EU's main destination for fish and shellfish and a global reference for its seafood expertise. Spain is a major importer of salmon, cod, and shrimp, with a strong tradition in both fresh and processed seafood. It also plays a vital economic role, supporting thousands of coastal jobs and driving innovation in the frozen and canned sectors. Next, please. Spain is a major seafood hub, accounting for about 15% of total EU seafood imports, a clear indicator of its strategic importance. The market is highly diversified, with no single country dominating supply. Morocco leads with 12%, followed by Argentina, France, Portugal, and Sweden. Together, these top 5 represent just over 1/3 of Spain's imports, leaving a broad 65% share by many smaller suppliers. And this fragmentation means that there's space for high-quality, traceable seafood from Nova Scotia to strengthen its foothold and gain visibility in premium segments. Let's talk about some main species in Spain. Spain seafood industry shows 2 very distinct profiles. On the domestic side, hake, skipjack tuna, and yellowfin tuna dominate landings, species with deep cultural and culinary roots in Spanish markets. In contrast, imports are led by shrimp, tuna, and salmon, which together represent over 1/3 of total import value. This balance between local catches and imported species highlights Spain's position as both a major fishing nation and one of Europe's leading seafood importers, ensuring constant product variety and supply throughout the year. Spain continues to be one of the highest seafood consumers in Europe, with per capita consumption near double the EU average. However, the long term, as you can see here, the long term shows a gradual decline from 46 kilos per person in 4 years ago to just 42 kilos in 2022. This reduction reflects lifestyle changes, aging demographics, and competition from other protein sources. Though seafood remains deeply ingrained in Spanish food culture, even with this decline, Spain's consumption levels confirm its role as the EU reference market for seafood. So how do Spaniards buy? Seafood in Spain is purchased mainly through supermarkets, which dominate both fresh and frozen sales. And traditional fishmongers, however, continue to play a key role in supplying whole fresh fish, especially in urban markets. Online sales remain small but are growing, particularly for frozen and gourmet seafood. And Spain also re-exports part of its imports, leaving an apparent domestic consumption of around 129,000 tons per year. Consumption peaks during Christmas, Easter, and the summer months, when demand for shellfish, cephalopods, and premium whitefish rises sharply. On average, Spaniards eat seafood 3 to 4 times per week, with higher frequency in coastal areas and among older consumers, while shellfish and cephalopods tend to be eaten less regularly. In next slides, you can see some images that illustrate Spain's seafood culture in everyday life. Fresh fish is purchased both in traditional markets and in large supermarket chains, where displays are abundant and visually appealing. Customers value personal interaction with fishmongers who provide advice on species, freshness, and preparation. The wide variety from fresh to frozen, from everyday to premium products, reflects Spain's deep-rooted connection to the sea and its strong culinary tradition around seafood. Let's have a look at the most consumed species in Spain. Spain's seafood consumption is led by traditional favorites such as hake, tuna, and small pelagic species like sardine or anchovy. Cod also remains a key species, particularly in salted or frozen form, while salmon continues to grow thanks to its convenience and perceived health benefits. Cephalopods, especially squid and octopus, hold a cultural and culinary importance, while shrimp, prawns, and mussels are highly valued for festive occasions and regional dishes. Altogether, these species reflect both Spanish culinary heritage and its openness to imported value-added seafood. In the next slides, we will have a look at some of these species, starting with hake. Hake and tuna are among the most visible species in Spanish fish markets and supermarkets, offered in a wide variety of formats to suit different consumer preferences. Hake is typically sold fresh, whole in fillets or as slices, and also widely available frozen or pre-packed for convenience. It is one of the most versatile whitefish options in Spain. Tuna, especially skipjack, yellowfin, and albacore, is sold fresh in steaks and loins, frozen for home consumption, and increasingly in vacuum-packed or ready-to-cook portions. Its deep red color and premium presentation make it one of the stars at fish counters throughout Spain. Next slide, we can talk about shrimp. Shrimp and prawns are showcased abundantly in Spanish markets, and both in fresh and frozen. They range from small local varieties to imported tropical species, sold whole, peeled, or cooked. These products are especially popular during festive seasons and are often displayed prominently in fish counters to highlight freshness and visual appeal. So next slide, please. In Spain, let's talk about some of the typical Nova Scotia species that are sold in Spain, starting with live lobster. In Spain, live hard-shelled lobster is sold mainly through premium channels, upscale restaurants, and seafood specialists in Galicia, Catalonia, Levante, and Madrid. And demand peaks during Christmas, Easter, and summer. The segment relies on importers with live tanks and strong cold chain capabilities to maintain product quality. Next will be frozen lobster. Frozen lobster in Spain is marketed mainly in premium frozen formats like tails, IQF, split halves, whole cooked pieces, or claw or knuckle meat. And these products target gourmet frozen retail and high-end food service distributors, supplying restaurants, catering, and events. And packaging is typically small, 1-2 tails per pack, designed for convenience and portion control. Next will be scallops. In Spain, scallops are mainly sold as IQF meats from U10 to U30, half shell, or in ready-to-cook trays. There is a growing demand for pre-gratinated or pre-cooked options that simplify preparation. And the main channel are premium HoReCa, gourmet frozen retail, and processors of frozen ready meals. Local Galician supply is limited, so imports from the North Atlantic are valued for their consistent size, quality, and sustainability, especially during festive seasons. Next will be snow crab. Snow crab in Spain is marketed mainly in frozen clusters, claws, and leg meat, either cooked or IQF. It is used primarily in premium HoReCa, fine dining, seafood restaurants, and in gourmet retail, often featured in festive frozen assortments around Christmas and New Year. Though it is still a niche product, it is gaining visibility for its delicate texture and presentation, competing with king crab and lobster in high-end menus and premium seafood counters. Let's go to cold water shrimp. Pandalus that are sold mainly cooked and peeled IQF or bulk frozen for use in salads, tapas, and ready meals. They are distributed through frozen retail assortments, HoReCa suppliers, and food manufacturers for processed products such as spreads and fillets. Competition from tropical shrimp is strong, but demand for sustainable MSC-certified cold water shrimp is growing, particularly in premium and convenience segments. Next will be redfish. Well, redfish, known in Spain as is with many names, but probably one of the most popular is Gallineta nordica, is mostly sold as a frozen fillets or portions. It is widely used by food processors and breaded fish products, ready meals, and catering services. In retail, it is positioned as an affordable, mild whitefish option from the North Atlantic, appealing to consumers looking for a versatile and good value alternative to cod or hake. And now we go to halibut. Halibut is sold mainly as frozen fillets, loins, or steaks, skin on or skinless, vacuum packed, or IQF. It is occasionally available fresh through premium fishmongers and restaurants. And in Spain, halibut is positioned as a refined whitefish alternative to cod or hake, valued for its firm texture and delicate flavor. So, summarizing, Spain continues to be one of Europe's largest seafood markets, offering both size and diversity. Although household consumption, as we have seen, of fresh fish has slowed, there is growing demand for premium, frozen, ready-to-cook, and sustainable products. The recovery of tourism has strongly boosted food service demand, making seafood a year-round menu essential. At the same time, sustainability certification and transparent origin labeling have become key differentiation factors for imported seafood. And to finish with market trends, I would say that seafood consumption in Spain reflects strong opportunities for adaptation and innovation. While while older consumers remain loyal and drive consistent demand, younger generations are opening new pathways through convenience and sustainability. The rise of ready-to-cook portioned and eco-friendly seafood formats shows how the market is evolving to meet modern lifestyles. And there are also some government-led initiatives that are helping to re-engage young consumers, creating a more balanced and forward-looking market for seafood in the years ahead. So now, how is Canada performing in Spain? Let's have a look. The next slide which shows how that Canada represents around 1.3% of Spain's total seafood imports. 1.3. After peaking in 2021, import volumes dropped sharply in 2023, but showed signs of recovery in the last year, suggesting renewed demand for Canadian fish and shellfish products. What are the main species supplied by Canada? Well, lobster is clearly leading, representing more than half of total value, which is a strong position that demonstrates Spanish buyers' confidence in Canadian quality. And beyond lobster, species like hake, clams, and salmon also show consistent demand, offering room to diversify supply and strengthen Canada's image as a premium sustainable source. In the next slide, you will see that how lobster clearly stand out as Canada's main seafood export to Spain. 30% of all Canadian lobster sent to the European Union ends up in the Spanish market. 30%. So Canadian exports are split between frozen formats, 60%, and live or chilled lobster, which represents 40% of the Spanish imports. So next slide, you can see how Canada has consistently been Spain's leading lobster supplier, providing between 45 and 65% of total imports over the last 5 years. Although its market share has fluctuated slightly, Canada remains the dominant origin ahead of all other origin supplies combined, confirming its strong position and reliability in the Spanish lobster market. Now you can see some of the lobster products sold in the Spanish market. Around 60%, as I mentioned before, around 60% of lobster sold in Spain is frozen, either raw or cooked, and available under major retail and private label brands. The variety of formats makes it accessible to different consumer profiles, from gourmet shoppers to occasional buyers. And this demonstrates that Canada lobster has successfully transitions from a festive luxury to a versatile year-round product in Spanish retail. In addition to retail, the processed lobster segment is expanding very fast in Spain. Well, not so fast, but it is expanding. These frozen and vacuum-packed formats, including cooked meat, tails, and splits, cater mainly to restaurants, caterers, and premium ready meal producers. So, what will be the opportunities in Spain? As mentioned, Spain offers high potential for live Canadian lobster, particularly hard shell sizes from 400 to 900 grams, suited to retail and fine dining. And demand is strongest in premium HoReCa, gourmet retail, and wholesalers. And there is a clear growth potential for smaller size formats and retail and gourmet channels. So next will be not so much potential, but I would say some niche niche products with some potential would be snow crab and cold water shrimp. Snow crab and cold water shrimp represent niche opportunities. Snow crab competes with local species, but has room to grow in frozen value-added formats. And cold water shrimps compete with tropical varieties, but appeals from its taste, texture, and sustainability. It is used by food processors and increasingly seen in frozen retail, with potential for co-branding focused on traceable cold water origin. And finally, there will be some opportunities in Spain for scallops and halibut. Limited domestic supply leaves space for high-quality imported scallops, especially in premium catering and frozen retail. And halibut is viewed as a luxury whitefish, ideal for fine dining and gourmet retail. And popular formats are frozen loins, steaks, or skin-on fillets, with the strongest demand concentrated in cities like Madrid, Barcelona, and coastal HoReCa hubs. So what would be finally the recommendations for Spain for accessing the Spanish market? Well, first, focus on live lobster for the premium and seasonal HoReCa segment, targeting fine dining and festive periods such as Christmas and Easter, while also developing cooked formats for gourmet retail chains in partnership with importers operating live tanks. Second, position snow crab within the frozen festive range, promoting MSC certified Canadian origin and competing through value-added clusters and leg meat in premium frozen retail and catering channels. And finally, promote scallops. Scallops as a reliable imported could be a good option for both food manufacturers and frozen retail, highlighting the consistent size, clean flavor, and traceability to strengthen Nova Scotia's reputation for quality seafood. And final recommendations would be and strategic, not forgetting halibut. Halibut could be sold in Spain portioned in IQF formats. And at the same time, it is advisable in Spain to evaluate a niche entry for cold water shrimp, as I mentioned before, but positioning cold water shrimp as the premium, sustainable, and traceable alternative to tropical shrimp that is sold in Spain. And finally, Nova Scotia should strengthen its local presence through partnerships by holding frozen stock in key logistic hubs like Vigo or Valencia, enabling faster delivery and mixed orders, with collaborating with co-packers and develop retail-ready skin pack formats under a shared Nova Scotia Atlantic origin branding. And that's it for Spain. Should I now go to the Netherlands, starting with next slide is why the Netherlands? The Netherlands plays a central role in the European seafood trade. It is truly Northern European seafood gateway and processing hub. Thanks to world-class logistics through Rotterdam Port and Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, and to specialized clusters such as Urk, Humidin, and Jersey, the country has built a strong infrastructure for importing, processing, and distributing seafood across Europe. At the same time, it's a format-driven market, meaning buyers look for added value in how the product is prepared and presented, from smoked and salted products to frozen fillets, portions, or skin pack formats. And finally, the Netherlands is a re-export powerhouse. A significant share of imported seafood doesn't stay in the domestic market, but is redistributed to Germany, Belgium, and France, making the country not just a destination, but a strategic entry point to the wider European market. The Netherlands account for around 10% of total EU seafood imports, a strong position considering its size. It is a dynamic trade hub, re-exporting much of what imports to neighboring countries, as I said before. The supply base is well distributed, with Germany, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, and Iceland together covering about 41% of imports. And this balanced landscape means there's room for high-quality supplies like Nova Scotia to gain visibility, especially through partnerships with Dutch processors and distributors who serve the wider European market. So what are the main species in the Netherlands? Dutch fisheries are dominated by shrimp, sole, herring, plaice, and mackerel that together represent more or less 55% of total landings. Brown shrimp leads the domestic catch, reflecting the country's strong tradition in coastal and North Sea fisheries. On the import side, as you can see on your right, the picture is very different. The Netherlands depends heavily on salmon and cod, which together account for more than 40% of import value. And cold water shrimp also has a solid presence, representing around 11% of total imports, followed by tuna and processed seafood preparations. So, what about consumption in the Netherlands? Fish consumption in the Netherlands remains below the EU average, while the European average stands out around 24 kilos per person per year. Dutch consumers typically eat between 19 to 21 kilos, showing a slight decline in the last year. And this gap reflects a more occasional seafood consumption pattern focused on specific products such as herring, smoked salmon, and ready-to-eat seafood meals rather than fresh fish. However, the country's strong retail and processing sectors continue to ensure high quality, high product availability, and diversification. Okay, so how the Dutch buy? In the Netherlands, supermarkets are the main seafood channel, accounting for around 75% of sales, led by Albert Heijn, Jumbo, and Lidl. Traditional fishmongers still matter for fresh and smoked fish, while discounters and online stores are gaining share in frozen and convenience products. Dutch consumers are driven by price and freshness, but also care about origin and sustainability, labels like MSC or ASC. They prefer clear information and ready-to-cook formats such as skin pack portions. Seafood consumption peaks on Fridays, weekends, and festive periods, especially in Christmas and Easter. And during the summer, coastal areas see a rise in BBQ and seafood meals. Overall, Dutch consumers eat seafood 2 to 3 times per week, favoring smoked, salted, and canned fish. Private labels dominate in volume, with branded products lead in premium and sustainable categories. So in the next slide, you can see some these images. They illustrate how seafood is traditionally sold in the Netherlands. Fishmongers and open markets, such as those in Urk, Scheveningen, Huurmidden, remain central to Dutch seafood culture, offering a wide variety of fresh, smoked, and marinated fish. Alongside these traditional outlets, modern specialty stores and supermarket counters present seafood in clean, attractive displays, often emphasizing quality, freshness, and convenience formats. What are the most consumed species in the Netherlands? Dutch consumers show a strong preference for salmon, which clearly leads seafood consumption, followed by tuna, herring, and cod, all commonly available in smoked, salted, or ready-to-eat formats. Traditional species like plaice and mackerel still hold an important place in local diets, especially in coastal areas, with seal and mussels and brown shrimp represent emblematic domestic products with strong regional roots. And this combination of international favorites and local specialties defines the Dutch seafood market, balancing everyday convenience with culinary heritage. So in the next slides, we will go through some of the most consumed species in the Netherlands. In the Dutch market, salmon leads seafood consumption, from smoked to frozen fillets and skin pack portions. It is perceived as a healthy, convenient, and premium product, suitable for both daily meals and special occasions. Tuna ranks second, driven by both canned and fresh formats. Canned tuna remains a pantry staple for everyday use, while steaks and chilled fillets are gaining popularity among consumers seeking freshness and high quality. Next will be herring. Herring is a symbol of Dutch seafood culture. It is consumed both fresh and marinated, often served with onions and pickles, and remains a seasonal favorite during the summer. Next will be mackerel, which is also a popular choice in the Netherlands, and it is widely consumed in smoked, canned, and chilled fillet formats, often featured in sandwiches and salads. And mussels, particularly from Zealand, are a national staple and a key symbol of Dutch seafood tradition. Consumed mainly for fresh or cooked, they are also available in vacuum-packed and marinated jars. And finally, cold water shrimp and plaice. Cold water shrimp, particularly the brown shrimp, and other imported North Atlantic prawns are well established in Dutch retail. They are mainly sold cooked and peeled, often in small chilled packed. And plaice is one of the Netherlands' most traditional flatfish, strongly associated with North Sea fisheries and Dutch heritage. It is commonly sold as fresh or breaded frozen fillets, featured in everyday meals and food service menus alike. So next slide will show us how the live lobster is sold in the Netherlands. The domestic market is small for live lobster. It's a niche, limited to fine dining restaurants in Amsterdam, in Rotterdam, and The Hague. And only a few importers, like in Urk or Humeden, handle live lobsters, with most volumes re-exported to Belgium, France, and Germany. Local demand peaks around Christmas and Valentine's Day, but remains very low for the rest of the year. This is a format that is not very well suited for retail, because Dutch consumers prefer pre-cooked or frozen lobster products. What about frozen lobster? Well, it is the best performing format in the Dutch market. Cooked frozen tails, halves, and claw meat fit perfectly in premium frozen retail and HoReCa channels. It is available in small retail packs for festive occasions and bulk formats for restaurants and caterers. Sorry. What about next will be scallops? Well, IQF, next please, scallop, okay. IQF meats from U10 to U30 and half-shell frozen scallops perform well in HoReCa and gourmet frozen retail, and the demand is growing for ready-to-cook MSC certified formats, and sales peak are Christmas, Valentine's Day also, and during the summer seafood season. Next will be snow crab. Snow crab is mainly imported frozen, clusters, legs, claws, or meat. It is used mostly in frozen retail and food service, and especially Asian and fusion restaurants. And the demand for raw products is very low. And there's competition from king crab, brown crab, and surimi. So there's opportunities for snow crab, but it still is a niche in the Netherlands. So next will be cold water shrimp, which is mainly imported frozen, peeled, and cooked. We're talking about Pandalus borealis, and is sold through supermarkets and frozen retail, mainly used in salads, spreads, and ready-to-eat meals. Next will be redfish. Redfish is mainly imported whole, frozen, headed, and gutted, and fillets for processing, and is used by processors for breaded fillets, surimi base, and other value-added products. And finally, halibut. Well, halibut is sold as frozen fillets and loins, IQF or vacuum packed, and preferred formats include portion cuts from 300 to 500 grams and bulk fillets for gastronomy. And halibut is perceived as a premium whitefish alternative, appreciated for its mild flavor and firm texture. So now, what are the market trends in the Netherlands? Dutch consumers eat seafood regularly, preferring smaller, frequent servings over large occasional purchases. As red meat consumption declines, seafood is increasingly chosen for its health and sustainable benefits. Filleted, boneless, and ready-to-cook formats perform very well in different categories. Smoked, marinated, pre-portioned, and ready to eat or to heat seafood drive sales among busy urban consumers. And finally, some other trends. Vacuum-packed, IQF, and MAP trade formats are preferred for freshness, convenience, and waste reduction. Dutch buyers, they value clear eco-labeling, certified origin, and sustainable catch methods. Retail favors convenience and traceability, while Horeca prioritizes batch consistency and portion control. So, how is Canada performing in the Netherlands? Let's go to the next slide. Well, as you can see here, Canada represents 0.8% of total Dutch seafood imports in volume. Volumes have declined since 2022, reaching partly reflecting increased EU competition and price sensitivity as well. And despite lower volumes now, Canada maintains a strong image for premium sustainable food. So in this next slide, you can see the different species imported by the Netherlands. Dutch imports from Canada are highly concentrated in a few key products. Flatfish like plaice and flounder, and fish oil that represent 19% of total volume. Frozen lobster accounts for 10%, maintaining a premium niche in high-end retail and food service. Scallops represent 7% and hake 6%. The Netherlands primarily acts as a processing and re-export hub, particularly for EU and Belgian markets, as I said before. So in this slide, you can see how that lobster is the star of imports from Canada. Shipments are predominantly frozen. 90% of lobster from Canada arriving in the Netherlands is frozen, and the remaining 5% consists of live and chilled lobster, mainly serving fine dining restaurants in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague. Next slide. You can see here that Canada remains a key lobster supplier to the Netherlands, with around from 20 to 35% of total imports over the past 5 years. In 2024, Canada holds 32%, confirming competitiveness against US and UK suppliers of lobster. So, next slide. What would be the opportunities for you in the Netherlands? Well, some species with high potential. One will be called water shrimp. The market is dominated now by Greenland and Denmark, but is open to new MSC certified suppliers. Next will be some opportunities will be for scallops. Scallops are gaining traction in fine dining and premium frozen retails, and Canadian scallops are valued for the size, the quality, and consistency, which is very important. Next will be for snow crab. Snow crab has low consumer awareness, but is growing visibility, mainly in gourmet and Asian restaurants. And there's potential in premium frozen and sustainable seafood assortments. And the formats will be cooked clusters and vacuum-packed meat. Okay, So next, you can see here that as Netherlands is not only a country, it's a final destination, but it's a re-exporting hub, there will be some opportunities also for species that will be re-exported from the Netherlands. Some with high potential like lobster, some other with medium like snow crab, frozen, and redfish will be filleted or processed. And there will be like niche opportunities also for scallops and cold water shrimps that will be processed. So what would be the final recommendations for you if you want to sell in the Netherlands? The Netherlands offer, as I said before, an excellent entry point to the wider EU market. By keeping buffer stock in Rotterdam or Urk, exporters like you can ensure faster relabeling, documentation, and delivery, a real advantage for maintaining steady supply. Working with Dutch processing hubs such as Urk, Humiding, or Jessiki enables co-packing, MSC-certified filleting, and private label production, all key to developing re-export opportunities to Germany, Belgium, and France. And finally, targeting cash and carry and food service distributors like Bitfood and others with chef packs, particularly lobster, scallops, and whitefish, can help position Nova Scotia as a reliable premium supplier across Europe. And finally, my recommendations would be, well, for lobster, focus on whole cooked and calibrated tails in vacuum packs that will help reach both retail and HoReCa buyers. And at the same time, exporters should be retail and e-grocery ready, adapting formats for leading supermarket chains like Albert Heijn, Jumbo, and Plus. Small IQF portions, MAP or skin pack trays, and clear sustainability and previously frozen labeling. And finally, my final recommendation will be promoting high interest species such as lobster, scallops, and cod under MSC ASC certification that would strengthen Nova Scotia's positioning as a responsible and premium origin for Dutch consumers. So that's all for me. Thank you very much for your attention. Maybe it's been too long with too many details, but now I'm open to any questions that you may have, and especially to provide local support in Europe for Nova Scotia seafood. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Felipe. It was some very valuable insights into two incredibly dynamic markets and a lot of great information to take in. So we really, really appreciate your time. As Felipe said, in the interest of time, we will take one or two questions right now. I believe we are going to skip the break and then go right into the presentation from Michael Couch with the Halifax International Airport Authority. But before that, the floor is open for one or two questions from anybody on the call. I can kickstart it with one question, Felipe. So you had talked about the importance of local partnerships and local connections in market. What is the importance of having a European distributor or partner for companies to work with?
Well, yes. I mean, Europe is a complex market. I mean, even if we have in Europe like a common legislation for many things, well, when it comes to operations and logistics, many of the exporters probably have found out that it is not easy, and that there's specific regulations and law depending on the market you are targeting. That's why it is very important to try to partner with some reliable importers and distributors in European countries. It's mainly in these important hubs like the Netherlands or Spain and some other major countries, which will facilitate the access to the market in terms of, well, all kinds of documentation, logistics, and of course, providing knowledge of the channels, the distribution channels in different EU markets. So if you want to go on your own to Europe, oh, that's fine. But I mean, if you are new to the market, you will probably soon, very soon, find out that it is very important to relying on good distributors and partner with them, and probably you will lose a little bit of your share in terms of sales. But I think I strongly recommend to rely on the already solid partners. We think that will also facilitate logistics and storage in Europe.
Perfect. And we do have one question in the chat from Rob. Even though Canada has a free trade agreement with the EU, there are annual tonnage quotas for certain species that limit the amount of exports to the EU from Canada. How do we address these quota volume limitations?
Well, I don't know if any of the trade commissioners are still present here who could probably answer this.
Believe we still have a few of them on the call.
Hi, Sasha. I can, oops.
All right,
Sorry, I'm
Julie.
trying to turn my video back on. Sorry. There's only tonnage, as far as I know, there's only tonnage limitations if you're exporting a product that has that's not a fully Canadian origin product. So if you're producing lobster meat using US lobster, then you can apply for a special consideration using the quotas. But those are the only, if it's fully Canadian sourced product, then there's no, as far as I know, there's no quota limitations. But if you have like a specific details or anything, please just send me a quick email and happy to discuss that as well.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
All right. I think we will move on to the next presentation, understanding that there is supposed to be a break, or was supposed to be a break right now. If someone wants to get up and stretch their legs and keep listening, please feel free. But our next speaker is Michael Couch, Senior Manager of Cargo at the Halifax International Airport Authority. Michael will share insights on cargo operations and logistics to help connect Nova Scotia seafood to markets across Europe. Michael, it's over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sasha, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. As Sasha mentioned, I'm with Halifax International Airport, and I lead cargo and market development to help get your exports to international markets. So I wanted to start by giving a special thanks to Invest Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia Seafood for hosting this excellent webinar series. It's so great to hear from our colleagues with the Trade Commissioner Service, Nova Scotia's in-market consultant, and key buyers like Sandfisk and La Serena sharing their key market insights. We're really pleased to be part of this discussion on doing business with Spain and the Netherlands, two incredibly important and growing markets for Nova Scotia's seafood industry. I'll be sharing some updates on our air cargo capacity, recent investments in our cold chain infrastructure, and how we're helping position our exporters to reach new global markets more efficiently and reliably. Next slide, please. So Halifax Stanfield is Atlantic Canada's largest air cargo gateway to the world, and we consistently rank among the top 10 airports in Canada. Just last month, we were actually recognized in Hong Kong as the world's best airport serving under 5 million passengers, specifically highlighting the strength of our regional partnerships and the work we've done to grow our European connectivity. We see ourselves as much more than just an airport. We're an economic engine for the province, contributing $4.2 billion to the economy in 2023 and supporting exporters like yourselves to connect Nova Scotia to global markets. We've built the infrastructure to do exactly that with the region's longest runway at 10,500 feet, 24/7 operations, and direct apron access designed for fast, seamless transfer from truck to aircraft, altogether making us one of only a handful of airports in Canada that are capable of handling the world's largest freighters. Last year, we processed more than 26,000 metric tons of cargo, valued at over $500 million, much of which is seafood and particularly live lobster. Next slide, please. So we all know that 2024 brought a very different kind of year with lower landings early in the season, followed by softening prices and growing cost sensitivity. At the same time, there's a tendency for some exporters to truck shipments through Toronto, Montreal, and even south of the border to JFK. So the challenge with that is that those detours come at a cost in terms of time, long-term capacity, and mortality, impacting the freshness of the product. And once freighters reduce frequency or exit a market, they rarely return. So while cost matters, reliability ultimately wins. And if we want predictable access to markets, especially new ones in Europe, we need to protect the lift that we have today. So it's also worth remembering that while freight rates can fluctuate weekly, network stability takes years to build and only one bad season to lose. On to the next slide, please. One of our biggest challenges really comes down to lack of awareness. Not everyone realizes how much connectivity we already have in place and how much of that capacity is actually underutilized. We have several dedicated freighters operating year-round to Europe and Asia already, including Korean Air Cargo, which celebrated 10 years in Halifax last year, and Maersk, which also launched late last year, as well as a growing number of wide-body passenger flights with the capacity to carry 20 to 30 tons of cargo per flight during the summer. That includes daily Air Canada service to Montreal in the summer for global onward connections, Discover Airlines 6 times weekly to Frankfurt on Lufthansa's extensive cargo network, and Edelweiss twice weekly to Zurich, with plans to enable cargo uplift there as early as next season. Maersk also recently expanded its service up to twice weekly to Liège, and there's potential for more European capacity in the near future. Altogether, freighter operations provide roughly 950 metric tons of payload each week, yet we're moving just only over half of that. And in this business, it's very much a use it or lose it environment, so filling that capacity is critical to keeping and growing these routes. On to the next slide, please. Over the last few years, we've invested heavily in infrastructure to make Halifax Stanfield a true modern air cargo gateway, not only for seafood, but also for all time-sensitive cold chain commodities, such as pharmaceuticals and other high-value perishables. The Air Cargo Logistics Park, the ACLP, which opened in 2022, is a purpose-built cold storage facility surrounded by multiple air freighter parking positions. Paired with our dedicated ground handlers that specialize in cold chain logistics, these facilities reduce mortality, minimize credit losses from spoilage, and help maintain premium quality and shelf life. As Chris Viscato from the Nova Scotia Seafood Alliance puts it, the cold chain infrastructure and connectivity that we have here at Halifax Stanfield gives our region a measurable competitive edge, extending reach to global markets and maintaining product integrity from trap to table. We also recently opened our new International Connections Facility, the ICF, which supports international passenger growth and higher cargo throughput via new routes and upgauge to larger wide-body aircraft. The key point here is that we're not waiting for demand to spike. We're putting in the pieces in place right now so that the region's ready when it comes. And these investments aren't just about handling more volume. They're about positioning Halifax Stanfield to anchor Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada's next generation of trade growth. On to the next slide, please. But it's not all bad news. In fact, it's far from it. Outbound cargo is actually up this year, 1.4% year to date, which may seem like a relatively small number, but a meaningful one after several quarters of high volatility. We started seeing a rebound in March just before the new 25% tariff came into effect in China, which temporarily spiked demand and moved a lot of inventory. And since then, volumes have rebounded across nearly all carriers, surpassing last year's performance for the same period. As trade negotiations between the US and China continue to disrupt freighter activity into JFK, this is resulting in exporters identifying new supply chains to get their product to market, and Halifax Stanfield's advantage as a direct export gateway has never been clearer. All of these dynamics reinforce why Europe, particularly the Benelux corridor and southern markets like Spain, represent such a critical opportunity for Nova Scotia exporters. On to the next slide, please. While China and the broader Asia-Pacific region remain key markets for Nova Scotia, we're now seeing real momentum building across Europe, especially in the Netherlands and Spain. This is being driven by several factors, one of the biggest being the increasingly strained trade relationship between the US and China, which has slowed e-commerce imports to the US, leaving carriers like those operating through JFK with less viable trade lanes. And that's redirected capacity and focus towards Europe, where demand for premium, sustainably sourced seafood continues to increase. Within Europe, the Benelux region, led by the Netherlands and Belgium, has become one of the most important seafood entry points into an integrated logistics ecosystem that distributes product efficiently across Northern and Central Europe. Air cargo capacity to Frankfurt and Liège offer exceptional connectivity through a reefer truck network throughout Europe, as well as air cargo connections that extend deeply into the continent and beyond, such as into Asia and the Middle East. However, while it can make sense to truck on one end of the supply chain, trucking on both sides adds significant risk, especially for live or highly perishable cargo. Each transfer increases handling time, introduces customs clearance uncertainty, and ultimately compresses the product's viable shelf life window. Meanwhile, Spain is one of Europe's most dynamic seafood markets, driven by high per capita consumption, strong tourism, and a culinary culture that values premium shellfish and traceable sourcing. These markets align perfectly with Nova Scotia's strengths in quality, cold chain reliability, and sustainability. And with Maersk's expanded twice-weekly service to Liège and potential for additional capacity to Europe, Halifax Stanfield is better positioned than ever to connect exporters directly to these markets with speed, reliability, and freshness. I'll also note that while today's discussion focuses on Spain and the Netherlands, air cargo plays an equally important role in connecting Nova Scotia's seafood industry to France and Italy, which will be explored in greater depth during part 2 of this webinar series on Thursday. My colleague, Rob McInnes, Senior Manager of Trade and Trade Analytics at the Port of Halifax, will be speaking in that session, and I encourage everyone here to join as our air and marine cargo networks work hand in hand to expand Nova Scotia's reach across Europe. All of these dynamics reinforce why Europe, particularly the Benelux corridor and southern markets like Spain, represent such a critical opportunity for Nova Scotia exporters. On to the next slide, please. So over the past several months, we've been having direct in-person conversations with seafood shippers and freight forwarders across the province. The feedback has been very consistent, and I'll share a few of those key messages. First, while price will always matter, reliability remains a vital necessity. When capacity shifts unexpectedly, exporters are left scrambling for alternatives, and that instability hurts everyone. It's why we continue to stress that air cargo is a use it or lose it environment, and sustained utilization is what keeps routes viable long term. One topic that came up frequently is packaging standards, especially around the use of totes. Many exporters prefer totes because they're cost-effective and efficient for live product, but many carriers won't accept them due to the risks of ocean water leaks from totes into the aircraft hold, which can cause costly damage such as corrosion. It's more than just preference, it's also an issue of compliance and safety. That said, exporters have been very clear, you want more flexibility, and we completely appreciate that every dollar counts. So we share that goal, and we're in active discussions with our industry and airline partners to explore potential solutions and advocate for package innovations that might allow more flexibility within regulatory limits. The good news is carriers are eager to work with us. Many of them are open to adding lift or adjusting schedules during peak periods, but to make that viable, they need industry commitments at least 2 weeks in advance to adjust network planning and allocate aircraft capacity. Predictability drives investment in our market. We have carriers regularly looking at opportunities in our market, including direct connections to markets like Spain, engaging directly with industry, but there's been limited expression of interest from some of our stakeholders, and that's resulted in carriers going to competing jurisdictions. So opportunities like this continue to exist, but to capture them, we need to present a unified and responsive front as an export community. Moving forward, we're deepening collaborations with seafood exporters across Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada to ensure opportunities like this are not missed again. So through our ongoing outreach into 2026, we're looking to better understand your operational pain points, from cutoff times and packaging constraints to pricing, handling, and infrastructure needs. If you'd like to be part of these conversations or pilot projects, please reach out, because we very much value and want your input. The more we align, the more influence we have in shaping our future service. On to the next slide, please. And so that brings me to another point that was echoed repeatedly during last week's Lobster Council of Canada's AGM, unity and alignment. The consistent message we heard from industry, government, and partners alike was clear. We need to move forward together if we want to maintain our global leadership position. Whether it's harvesters, shippers, processors, or logistics partners, we're all part of the same ecosystem, and success depends on collaboration and communication. So Halifax Stanfield is committed to being part of that solution as a partner, a connector, and as an advocate for the industries that drive our region. That sense of unity, of shared purpose, is exactly what will define the next chapter of our industry's growth, and Halifax Stanfield is here to support you every step of the way. Onto the final slide there. So our focus is simple: enabling Nova Scotia's exporters to reach more markets more efficiently with the reliability, visibility, and connectivity they need to compete globally. Every shipment that leaves Halifax Stanfield carries more than just the product itself. It means jobs, families, and communities that depend on this industry. So with that, we're proud to be part of that story, and we look forward to working together as Nova Scotia continues to lead the world in premium seafood exports. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michael. That's a great presentation and really, really interesting to learn more about the logistics side of what's going on at Halifax International Airport. So really, really appreciate you joining us this morning. And to close out our presentations, we will now hear from Ben Forsyth, Export Development Executive for Seafood at Invest Nova Scotia. Ben is going to highlight some of the programs and services available to Nova Scotia seafood exporters to grow their export capacity and to succeed in international markets. And Ben, over to you.
Thanks, Sasha. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. I'd like to extend a big thank you to Elisa from Scanfisk, Daniel and Daniel from La Sirena, our trade commissioners, Julie, Diederik, Maximo, Deputy Hollid, Sasha, and the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, Felipe, of course, Michael and the Halifax Airport, and Carolyn. I'm going to discuss some activities and programs to support Nova Scotia companies to enter and expand in the European markets we've been discussing. First, we have several trade missions that are focused on Europe over the next year. We have a Europe Seafood Export Cafe mission, which is going to the United Kingdom, Germany, and the Netherlands, February 2nd to 6th. And this includes prearranged business-to-business meetings with local buyers in each market. We have Seafood Expo Global, or SEG, in Barcelona, Spain, which is April 21st to 23rd next year. It's one of the world's largest seafood trade show events. And as Julie mentioned, Nova Scotia has a large booth within the Canada Pavilion, and the photo on the left is that pavilion. And this show tends to have buyers from all over Europe and the rest of the world too. And then we have Conchimar in Vigo, Spain, which has just closed for this year, but it'll be October 6th to 8th next year. And this show was originally centered on frozen food, and it's a good opportunity to focus a bit more on Spain, Portugal, France, and the region around Spain. A bit about our programs. The Export Development Program is available in two streams. Stream 1 supports travel for export development, and companies can use it to support trade missions, or it can be for business trips that are on your own initiative. And the funding comes in the form of airfare, stipends, and per diems, depending on where you're traveling and how long you're traveling. And the program also has a stream 2, which supports hiring a consultant or a service provider to address export barriers like market research or product adaptation, something that's needed to enter a new market. Companies can claim up to $15,000 per year, and the program runs until January. So I would recommend to apply soon if you have a project in mind where you're planning to travel. The Market Entry Development Program is an Atlantic-wide program, so it's supported by the Government of Canada and the Atlantic provinces. It connects companies to an in-market consultant that would be chosen for you, and it provides market research, a market entry strategy, and introductions for business development. So it actually starts to begin your business development and your sales pipeline in a market potentially. And finally, we have the Trade Market Intelligence Service. So this provides market research to identify export opportunities, and it's a service that's provided by Invest Nova Scotia's own research department. It's free for companies that apply and are approved. And the final output is that companies receive a customized research report that's based on the pre-planned topics that you work on with our team. So thank you. Feel free to get in contact with us. That was a pretty brief overview, but we can discuss the programs and trade missions in more detail and whatever you need.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. It's a great overview of all of the opportunities available to our companies to learn more and grow in the European market. So really, really appreciate all of your work towards that. Now we will move into our final question and answer period. So if anyone has any questions, I believe our trade commissioners are still on the line. Philippe, Michael, Ben, once again, you can either raise your hand or drop your question in the chat. And I will acknowledge for the previous question about annual quota tonnage, Yannick, who is the Trade Commissioner for Canada to France, has given some great information if anyone hasn't flipped through. But yeah, open for any other questions that folks might have. It's a quiet morning. Maybe what I can do then is put one question out to, I would say, Felipe and our trade commissioners in general. In your opinion, what is the long-term outlook for Canadian seafood in Europe? Felipe, do you want to?
That's a very good question and difficult to answer. I mean, if we look at the numbers since the CETA was signed, I would say, I mean, I've been always a little bit surprised about the performance. I mean, I thought in the beginning, I thought that the performance of Canadian exports to Europe, not only seafood in general, I mean, the trade commissioners can correct me, but will be bigger, but it's not so much. But I mean, it all depends on many different factors today. I mean, the trend, the good trend for us is that well, consumers may, even if seafood consumption, generally speaking, and especially most European countries, is reducing, is going down. It is true that people or consumers are looking more for convenience formats, ready to eat, and high value and added value formats, which is something that Nova Scotia can provide. So we are in, I would say that we are in the right side at this moment. But probably it will be not a question of volumes, big volumes. It will be a question of quality, certifications. You know that in Europe we love certifications, all kinds of certifications, and retailers, they will ask you for any label, any certification, whatever. It always helps. So I would say that the trend will be, well, growing volumes, not very big volumes, but better margins, because the species or the formats will add more value. And that's what I think, what I see as a consultant based in Europe.
That's great. Thank you so much, Philippe. Max, did you want to chime in?
Sure. I think that I can speak on the Spanish market. To some extent, I do agree with what Felipe said. I think that we're going to see less live. although, you know, in that respect, I think that Spain is quite different to the trends that we've seen in Northern Europe, in places like Sweden and so on. There's a retailer like Costco that discontinued having live lobster, and they're bringing live lobster again after a few years with no water tanks and so on. So I think that the good thing about Nova Scotia fish and seafood is that Spain is demanding the products that they are not able to produce. And then products like lobster, products like scallops and so on are perceived as products of higher quality, and for celebrations, for is not a cheap product. I think my recommendation here is, and it's good that we don't have the retailer that they left the presentation, because I think that we should be focusing on value-added products and products with higher quality, MSC certified, and things like that, rather than selling lobster as a commodity. Because with commodity, I see it with the cereals market, I see it with the pulses market. Prices vary depending on the catches and so on. So if we're offering ready to eat, if we're offering products that are easier for the consumer, I think that there's a lot of potential. From my perspective, all I've seen is growth. I've seen export sales from Canada grow by 50% since 2017, when CETA was ratified, and Spain was one of the early ratifiers of the agreement. There's a strong campaign by the Spanish government and by the Spanish associations to promote fish and seafood consumption for various reasons, because it's sustainable, because it's good for your health, and so on. So I think my personal perspective is that we're going to see a growth. And my invitation to the companies is to Seafood Expo Global is for the international market, but if you want to do business in Spain and Portugal, go to the show in Consumer. 100% professional, and I've seen deals, because it takes place in October, I've seen deals like this just before the Christmas campaign. So here's my 2 cents.
Great, thanks, Max. And Julie, did you want to add anything on?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I agree with Felipe and Max. I think it also depends a little bit what's going to happen with our other strong markets like the US. And China, to be honest. China takes a lot of the live product, so it's relatively easy. Now, if tariffs go on or go on more than they already are, it's then that's when we start seeing companies having more and more interest in the EU. And I think my main message would be, don't wait. The time to sort of develop the relationships is now. Europe is it's a mature market. It's hard to sort of come up with a market or a place to put product at kind of that last minute, or if you want to really pivot. So I think my message would be, don't wait. Really start thinking about, if you want to be in the European market, where do you want to be? How are you going to get here? Who are you going to sell to? That kind of thing. Start developing your market a little bit. That sustainability message, I think, really resonates, that Felipe was talking about, your MSC certification and that sort of thing. Think about, and as Max said, really think about the innovation and the value add. I think where we haven't done such a good job with CETA is moving up that value added level with our fish and seafood products. We still, as Max said, kind of treat them as a commodity. I think we have an opportunity to really move up that sort of ladder, if you would, and get much more into the actual retail level with some really interesting products. So that would be my 2 cents.
It's perfect.
And
Thank you so much.
I'm just gonna add something. And there's 27 countries in the European Union. Each country is different. Consumer trends in Northern Europe are different to consumer trends in Southern Europe. And in my market, there's something that is very important, and is the long-term relationships and the in-person contact. So in Conchemar, I was with one Spanish importer, and they were saying they were having meetings with Canadian companies, and they were saying, we're not looking for just one deal. We want to establish a long-term relationship. And I think that is key for this market. If you start doing business, and it may take a while in the beginning, but if you start doing business in Spain, and you find an importer or you find a customer, chances are that you're going to continue doing business in the market. If the product is right and the business relationship works, but that personal connection is important in the market.
That's a great point too. Thank you so much, Max. Just taking a quick look in the comments to make sure I haven't missed anything. I do see a question from Michael. My question is about shipping containers to the southern Spanish port of Algeciras from Halifax. I'm in discussions with a coastal Horeca distributor, the Costa del Sol. I don't know if Rob is still on the call. Rob, unfortunately, I think Rob jumped off. Michael, did you want to? Oh, or Max?
If they can just send me an email, then I'll follow up. I'll make sure to follow up.
Perfect. That would be great. We'll make sure to share your email address, Max. And I believe that is it for today. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I just want to give a sincere thank you to all of our speakers and presenters for joining us today, for taking time out of what I know is a very busy time for everyone. Just thank you for sharing your insights. I know that there were a lot of great pieces of information and tidbits that we all took away from today. I also want to give a very special thank you to Invest Nova Scotia for their help in planning these webinars and pulling everything together, especially Ben on the planning side of things and moderation, Carolyn in navigating the technical side of a webinar. Just thank you both so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. We really, really hope that this was insightful and gave you lots of food for thought and inspiration for how to proceed with these two particular markets. As a reminder, there will be a recording of today's session available, and I want to do a final plug for the second part of this webinar series. So doing business in France and Italy, that will be taking place on this Thursday starting at 9 a.m. Registration is still open for that. I'm about to leave the link for that in the comments. And we hope to see you all back for that. But in the meantime, on behalf of both Invest Nova Scotia and the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on Thursday. Thanks, everyone.